Do you believe in fate? Do you believe that our lives are predetermined? Do you believe our death is predetermined and there is nothing we can do about it? Well, the movie I'm going to talk about today explores all of those things. Final Destination was released on the 17th of March in 2000. It's a movie that has about 1,000 sequels, and I want to talk about it today because, well, I want to talk about it today. While this movie isn't terrifying, the concept and the idea is, depending on what your stance is on death. James Wong, Jeffrey Reddick, and Glenn Morgan wrote this movie. James Wong also directed it. The synopsis of this movie is pretty simple. There is a group of high school kids who are going on a trip, and so all of them are in a plane. The plane explodes, and so everyone not on the plane is like, phew, that was a close call. Or so they thought. They then figure out that death is not so easily cheated. If that sounds interesting to you, then I recommend you keep watching. The movie begins on a dark and stormy night, which sets the tone and the atmosphere for the rest of the movie. There is a dramatic title sequence showing little hanging dolls, a fan, a toy monkey, before finally showing a passport. The passport belongs to this guy called Alex Browning, who is our main character. His character is described as shy and intelligent. We find out that Alex is going on a school trip to France. I really want to go to some of the countries in Europe, so I will. And if you want to go, you will go as well. I just know we're gonna go. Not together, but like, still. Also, in the back of this title screen, there is a small part where there is just some woman screaming. You just know a movie is kind of old when the intro is insanely long. Because nowadays, I swear, intros are like so short. They're like 10 seconds, whereas back in the day, they used to be like minutes long. Also in this title screen is someone flipping through a book about the devil. And there is an ominous text message that pops up on the screen that says, "This is the end." As Alex is packing in his room, his mum appears. She says that this dad of Todd and George has called and that he is going to pick up Alex at 3:30 tomorrow and that the bus will be leaving for the airport at around 5. There's a tag on Alex's suitcase. It's technically his dad's suitcase, but his dad is letting him borrow it. And his mom goes to take off this tag, but Alex is like, whoa, 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 whoa. He said that the tag was on the last flight and that plane made it without crashing. So therefore he needs to keep it on so that the new flight doesn't crash. Kind of just like a mental thing to help put his mind at ease. His mum is like, where would you get a nutball idea like that from? And yes, she actually does say nutball. So his dad relays the information that Alex is 17 and that this trip is a senior year trip to Paris. So it's not just any old school trip, it's his senior year trip. You know, sometimes I wish I was American so I could experience things like prom and homecoming and football games with cheerleaders and to go on senior year trips. He also tells us that the trip is going to be 10 days long. Then his dad really ominously is like, live it up, Alex. You've got your whole life ahead of you. So he goes to sleep and that night there's like a wind in his room. It's blowing everything around, fluttering the flags, fluttering his shirt, and then there is a woman's voice being like, Alex, Alex. Then we are at the airport. We start seeing other people who are going to be on this school trip. People who I will be introducing to you a little bit later. Remember Todd and George's dad? Well, he's like to Alex, you look after them, talking about his kids. So from this, we can gather that Alex is a very responsible kid because otherwise, why else would he say that? So this is the group, and just look at this girl, she's breaking the fourth wall. She's literally looking directly at the camera and she's sticking her tongue out and the people didn't even notice. So this is Carter and this is Terry. They are just the stereotypical couple that always appears in horror movies. You know, the couple that like openly loves each other and is kind of obsessed with PDA. That's them. The girl holding the book, her name is called Claire. She is described as mysterious, but also trustworthy. Some people even call her sly. Those are not my words, those are just what people are saying. Then this random guy shows up to Alex and he's like, death is not the end, and hands him this weird flyer. Here is where we meet Natalie Lewton. She is a teacher, and she says to this guy that he will be dead if he keeps harassing her students. As Alex is checking in, he then notices something weird is happening with the departure board. Everything is changing and switching. in ways that it wouldn't normally. She puts a tag on his bag, and if you look here, it says Final Destination. You know what? I love when movies include the title somewhere in the movie itself. I love that. I love it. We then find out that the departure time is 9:25 on September 25th, and that is also his birthday, September 25. In the waiting room, there's waiting room shenanigans, and Alex goes over to stand by the window and stare at the plane. It's also raining. His friend convinces him to go to the bathroom with him, and in the bathroom, a John Denver song is playing over the radio. John Denver died in a plane crash. Alex appears to be one of those people who look at signs. That's me. I'm always like, oh, is that a sign? Is that a sign? Is that a sign? But he is starting to think that maybe something is going to go wrong here. After some apprehension, Alex eventually boards the plane, and everyone else follows after him. Alex is just really aware of his surroundings. He notices there's lightning. He notices the plane is a little bit banged up. Anyway, as they walk in on the plane, there is a baby screaming. I think taking a poor little baby on a flight, especially a flight that's going to be 7 hours, is incredibly cruel. The parents are so selfish. Their child does not want to be stuck on that plane for 7 hours. You see, when babies cry, everyone always blames the baby. It's not the baby's fault, it's the parent's fault. Get mad at the parents, not the kid. People are not gonna like that I said that. Okay, moving forward. One of his friends is really happy to see a baby on the flight because, as he says, and I quote, "It would be a really fucked up god to take down this plane." Everyone gets on the plane. Alex feels very uncomfortable. He's hot, he's bothered, he's looking around all panicked. The plane takes off, everyone raises their arms in celebration. The plane hits a rough patch of turbulence. Everything calms down before starting back up again, and this time things are very intense with the turbulence. The plane is tilting like this, all the bags are flying everywhere, people are screaming. The airbags come flying down from the ceiling. Whenever I think of airbags, I always think of that one Madagascar movie. If you know, you know. Everyone puts on their airbag mask, things start sparking, electricity is going everywhere. The walls of the plane fall off and people start getting sucked out of the plane. Now it is very intense, a lot more people are screaming, there's a lot more sparks. Before finally the plane explodes and incinerates everybody. That's what happens. Or does it? The scene suddenly flashes to Alex being woken up by somebody. So that entire intense plane crash thing was just a vision that he had. And it flashes to these girls asking if he can switch spots with them. This was a particular scene that had happened before the plane took off. So essentially his vision is starting to come to life a little bit. The next few moments play out exactly the way he imagined it or visioned it. So obviously Alex is very freaked out. He gets up all panicked and screams that the plane is going to explode. Everyone tells him to shut up, and people tell him that it's not funny to make jokes about things like that. But Alex is adamant that the plane is actually going to explode, that it's not a joke. Everyone tells him to sit down and to calm down, but he can't. Alex gets punched. Alex gets taken off the flight. Basically, a lot of people get taken off the flight, including the French teacher. His friend goes to see how he's going, and the girl before who had the book clear, she decides that she's also gonna get off. Do you guys remember that girl on TikTok? And she was on the plane and she was screaming that like someone back there wasn't real. And everyone was like, this is like Final Destination, I'd be getting off the flight. Yeah, well, if Claire had TikTok, she'd be one of those people who were like, I'd get off the plane if I heard someone saying that. Basically, a whole bunch of people get taken off the plane and they are not allowed back on, so they're just in the waiting room. Then it comes time for the actual plane to take off, so a few people are standing around watching the plane. Miss Lewton is talking with Alex and she's like, what's going on? And he's like, I saw it take off, I saw the plane explode. Remember this couple? Yeah, well, this is the guy who punched him. And he just has like anger issues because why did he get so mad? Like, I understand being concerned if someone is screaming that the plane you're on is about to explode, but enough to go up to him and just punch him in the face and just want to keep continually fighting him? I don't know. Alex and Carter get into a fight. This time Alex attacks Carter rather than Carter punching him first, like what happened last time. Then it is time for the plane to actually take off. Suddenly, all the glass in the airport cracks and explodes. And if you look out the window, you will see that the plane itself has exploded. Everyone is freaking out, and everyone all has one question. That question being, Alex, how did you know the plane was going to explode? The 7 survivors who are supposed to be on that plane crash are there. Those are the people who cheated death. This dude comes in and we find out that there are no survivors and still they don't know what caused the plane to explode. The FBI then get involved and start asking questions. Basically, everyone thinks that Alex is insanely suspicious because they're like, you said that when the plane was going to take off that it was going to explode. Which I will admit does sound a little suspicious because a lot of people do not believe in premonitions or visions. And it is more logical to believe that he had something wrong as opposed to him envisioning something was going to go wrong and it actually was going to happen. You see, I overthink a lot of things, so I envision a lot of things happening and everyone tells me that they're not going to happen and then they actually do happen. So the FBI asked Alex if he took any drugs and he's like, no, I just had a feeling, a weird feeling. Todd is one of the survivors, so his brother was killed during the plane crash, or well, rather the plane explosion. I call these moments sliding door moments. And I think a lot of people have these kind of moments in their lives. I know right now, this guy, Todd, he would be thinking, why didn't I just get my brother to come off the plane with me? But let me tell you, living a life like that, it's very, very draining. Constantly asking what ifs is a way to kill your happiness. Natalie is also feeling very guilty because in the scuffle that got a whole bunch of people kicked off the plane, the other teacher was also kicked off and she told him to get back on the plane and she was going to stay with the others, so she's feeling guilty for that. Because initially he was like, I'll stay, you go, and she was like, no, you go and I'll stay, and because of that now the other guy is dead instead of her. Now it is time to question Claire. She got off the plane out of her own volition. Nobody forced her to, so the police are like, why did you get off the plane? And she says just because she saw and she heard Alex. And that she believed him. In the waiting room, all of them are in. All the parents then come rushing through. Well, everyone except Claire's parents. So Alex takes her home. Once back in his room, Alex breaks down and cries. Which, like, yeah, I would cry too. Then it cuts to a scene of the news. They relay the information that, again, there are no known survivors. And spoilers, there are no survivors at all. All 287 passengers are dead. The news reporter just lets on that there's going to be a lot of investigations. Alex looks outside of the window and sees a lightning bolt strike down right in front of him on the street. Then it is 39 days later and everyone is at a funeral. People still do not know why the accident was caused. The guy talking at the funeral then says, when trying to explain why this could have happened, that man no more knows his own time than fish taken in the fatal net. I don't know how on earth that is supposed to be comforting to people, but regardless. At the memorial, they unearthed a statue of a bird, which was made in memory of all the people who died. People then go and line up to place flowers at the statue's feet. And Carter is like to Alex, I hope you don't think that I owe you anything. They almost get into a tussle and he's like, I'm never gonna die. But like, we are. All of us are gonna die. Me, you, the person next to you, everyone is gonna die. Isn't it weird that someone could literally be watching this video and I could be dead right now? That's so weird to think about. I don't know, I don't like thinking about stuff like that. It's too weird and it trips me out a little bit. Then Billy comes up to Alex, he's Billy, and he's very concerned. He says that when he went for his driving test, the guy who was doing the test told him that he was going to die young. And so Billy is like, is this true? Am I gonna die young? And Alex is like, no, you're not. Then he's like, if I ask out this girl named Cynthia, will she say no? So everyone now thinks that Alex is just some psychic, which to be fair, I would think he's a psychic as well. Like the man said the plane was going to explode and then it did explode. Then him and Todd start talking and we find out that Todd's father does not want Todd hanging around Alex. Claire goes up to him and is like, it's because of you that I'm still alive, and hands him a rose, and then some random reporter takes a picture of them. It seems to be that she is the only one who's actually appreciative that they got off the plane. All the others are just too weirded and freaked out. Todd then says his speech out at the funeral and he says that, you know, death could happen anytime, death could happen this afternoon. And not gonna lie, that's kind of my thinking process a lot of the times at night. I'm like, this is my last night alive, I'm gonna die during the night. One thing I will say is that this movie is not very good in helping me combat those thoughts because yes, it is a movie, okay? I know this is a movie. Logically, I know this is a movie. But sometimes my brain is illogical. Now it is night and now Todd is in his bathroom. Things happen slowly but quickly after that. He inspects himself in the mirror. Wind blows through the curtains and through the window. He shuts the window, but the wind causes the bathroom door to close. He sits on the toilet and water leaks from the pipes. Alex, on the other hand, is now obsessed with planes and plane explosions. He has like 1,000 books on the topic and keeps looking through them all. Todd begins shaving his neck, and while he does so, the water coming from the toilet pipe starts pooling more on the floor. He accidentally cuts himself with the razor shaver thing. He sees like a dark shadow behind him in the mirror. He cuts his nose hairs with a little pair of scissors, then plugs in his CD player, and what song plays? The John Denver song that also played in the airport bathrooms. Freaked out, he rips out the cord in the wall, narrowly avoiding the toilet water on the ground. Alex is flicking through one of those magazines with naked people in it. An owl swoops his window. He tosses the magazine at the owl and it lands in his fan and chops up the magazine into little pieces. A piece of the magazine then lands on his lap, and this is what it says. Todd. Todd is the guy in the bathroom. Todd then slips over the toilet water. A shower cord wraps around his neck. He knocks down some shampoo and soap bottles, so now the bath he's standing in is all slippery and he can't stand up properly. He tries as hard as he can to release the cord around his neck, but it is no use, and unfortunately Todd passes away. The toilet water he slipped on then slinks away like it was never there. Alex goes to Todd's house, but by the time he's there, there's a whole bunch of ambulances and sirens out the front. Everyone thinks that he took his own life because his brother was killed on a plane, even though that is not what happened. And Todd's dad blames Alex solely for this. The FBI agents from before are looking at Alex like, what are you doing here? Also, by the way, Claire was hiding behind a tree. She told Alex to get out of there, but he didn't. And when he looks around for her again, she's not there. So now we're starting to see the concept of you can't play with death, you can't cheat death, and the idea that if you are predetermined to die, you can't escape that. A leaf falls on the ground. Claire also has a German Shepherd, and we find out that it is fall season. So a perfect time to watch this movie in fall if you're American. Even though I'm not even American, I still associate Halloween with fall, even though it is not fall where I live, and where I live it's not called fall, it's called autumn. But I would say that this is a movie that you should watch around Halloween. Claire says that on the plane she really felt the emotions that Alex was feeling, and she didn't even know where these emotions were coming from until he started freaking out. So while she didn't get actual visions of the plane exploding, she still had a very weird feeling, the same feeling that Alex felt. She's then like, you can still feel the emotion, can't you? This essentially means that whatever was after the plane and caused it to explode is now after all of these survivors. Claire says that it's because of those emotions that she was there at Todd's house last night. Remember when she was hiding behind the tree? Alex is like, what if Todd was just the first of us? So he thinks that all of them are going to be dead next. Alex is like, I wish I could just see him again one last time. So they go and see him again at the morgue. They see his dead body laying on the examining table when out of nowhere Todd's arm just flings up. Then this guy appears, and you want to know who he is? He is also the guy that plays the Candyman. The Candyman is such a good movie. The old one, not the remake. I don't want to talk about the remake. I like the old one. That movie is so good. I love that movie. But we're not talking about that one. We're talking about this one. Okay, moving back to Final Destination. So that guy explains that the reason why Todd's hand went up like that was just because of chemicals. But that would be actually terrifying. I've heard that dead people make weird noises after they've passed, but like physically moving. Then the guy is all like, in death, there are no accidents, there are no mishaps, and no escapes. Foreshadowing? I think yes. Then Alex is like, if there is a design in regards to death, can we escape it? And the guy is like, no. That even though they cheated death once, death will now be coming after them again. Just like it did with Todd. So Claire and Alex are very scared by him and what he says. They leave and he's like, I'll see you soon, all cryptically. Alex is like, the mortician said that death has a design. And he's really freaked out by it. He's like, how do we know that every little thing we're doing right now has no impact on the leading thing that's going to be our death? He's then like, they just need to make sure they're looking out for signs that could hint at death. So for Todd, remember the newspaper clipping, the magazine clipping, that landed on him. So he's essentially saying they just need to make sure they look out for the signs of death. Alex is then like, it's our time to die now, not later, because we messed up the design and we cheated death when we weren't supposed to. So all they can do now is just try to find the patterns in the design to be able to cheat death again. Does that make sense? Carter and his girlfriend start driving, and look at what song lyric is playing. Do you see that? Final Destination. Billy is then riding on a bicycle and Carter almost runs him over. 6 of the remaining survivors, all the high school students and the teacher, are then gathered around at this little outside cafe spot. Terry is all like, they died, we lived, get over it. She says that she's not wasting her life. She also tells her boyfriend that if he wants to fight Alex every chance he gets, then he can just drop dead. She then turns and gets hit by a bus. Yes, a bus slams into her and then she dies. So now the remaining 6 become the remaining 5. Alex now becomes obsessed with this idea about this design of death, and Claire and his dad are really worried about him. As he is watching the news, the reporter is like, we have a possible cause of the explosion that happened with the plane. He says that officials believe deterioration of silicone insulation. Don't ask me what that is because I don't know. Anyway, that silicone insulation on an electrical connector to the scavenger pump, I don't know what they're saying, may have leaked combustible fluids, and a spark in the fuel switch in the fuselage may have ignited the line and proceeded. I don't really know what's going on. This dude is speaking all in technical terms and I have no idea what any of it means. But essentially they have come up with a solution that could have happened and have this kind of patent thing. I don't know. And Alex is all like, hang on a second. He then starts tracing over this graph, puts that traced paper over a graph of the plane seat plan, and basically discovers that everything links up, making a path to the explosion. The first chain of events that set off the explosion also happens to line up with where Todd was sitting. And the second thing to cause the explosion falls in line with Terry. So Alex has deduced that at the rate at which everyone is dying links with this graph that he made. Therefore, he has found Death's design. He discovers that Miss Lewton is next in the path, so he goes to her house to investigate. First of all, how on earth does he have her address? Miss Lewton is packing up her house because she is moving away. She's taking this really hard. As she peers out the window, saying that she feels fear even looking in her own front yard, she spots Alex, so she calls the police. Well, the FBI. The FBI then take him away. Now, what's the fate with Miss Lewton? Well, to start, a wind starts blowing through the curtains, even though her window is closed. Alex is talking to the FBI agents, and he is like, Miss Lewton is next to die because of this specific pattern. Needless to say, the FBI, they just don't really know what to think about the entire situation. They think that he's a little bit crazy and they make fun of him a little. And he's like, everyone thinks I'm a freak. But I saved people's lives on that plane because everybody has a design. And he confesses that he's trying to figure out what the design is. Now, back in Miss Lewton's house, the record that is playing is that John Denver song, the song that played in the airport bathroom and in Todd's bathroom. As she puts on the kettle, she sees this like weird rippling effect. Basically the same thing that Todd saw in the mirror behind him. As she is fussing around her kitchen, she's looking at everything suspiciously and she keeps looking paranoidly over her shoulder. The FBI say that Alex is off the hook about the plane explosion thing because there is proof that he did not cause it. But they say it's very suspicious that he was there for Todd's death and he was there for Terry's death. And then they find him at Miss Lewton's house. The FBI agent says that no one has control over death unless they are taking lives and causing death. So he's like, promise me, Alex, promise me that no one else is gonna die. And Alex is like, no, I can't promise that. He says that as long as he is locked up and being questioned, he cannot control anything. So they say, you know what, go ahead, go, get out of here. My snow globe just broke. Look at that. Now it's just a broken sculpture. Like, are you actually kidding me right now? This is the best I could do for tonight. Now, where were we? Anyway, one of the FBI agents then stopped believing Alex. Well, he says that the kid scares him because part of him believed part of what he was saying. Okay, so now back to Miss Lewton. Long story short, her drink spills onto her computer cord and her computer explodes and glass shatters everywhere and one goes into her neck. So I guess I should be lucky that when my snow globe exploded and smashed, nothing got into my neck. Anyway, so she rips it out and her neck just keeps bleeding. Then her entire house catches on fire. She accidentally pulls a knife down so it lands in her chest. Alex tries to save her but quickly realizes there's going to be no use, so he runs out of the house just as it explodes and Billy sees him. That is her house. Alex then makes a run for it and then nobody knows where he is. Carter, Billy, and Claire all end up near the memorial statue. Carter then starts carving Terry's name onto the memorial thing because he says that her name deserves to be on the wall. So now there are only 4 survivors left. These 3 are trying to track down Alex to see which one of them is next. Claire finds him here. We then find out that Claire's dad died when she was 10. Then her mom found a new guy who didn't want a kid, so then she didn't want a kid, so then Claire was kicked to the curb basically. She then tells him that they can't give up. They talk and she decides that he can stay in her dad's cabin. Alex then tells them all that they are all on the same list and they're all going to die. Carter, who's driving the car, is then like, okay, so what's the point? He then jams his foot on the accelerator and starts driving like a maniac. Carter is having a crisis. He's screaming in the car like, I control my life, I control my death, while still driving erratically and ignoring everyone who's telling him to slow down. Billy tries to grab the wheel and Carter punches him. Then Carter takes his hands off the wheels and starts driving full speed towards a truck. They narrowly avoid crashing into the truck, and then Carter puts his hands back on the wheel. Eventually he stops the car in the middle of train tracks, which is problematic as a train is coming. Claire and Billy get out of the car. Carter stays in his seat. Alex is trying to get him to come out of the car, but he's being very stubborn. Eventually he's like, you know what, it's not my time. So he tries to start the car back up again, except the engine won't work. The engine won't turn on. Then his seatbelt jams and he can't get out of the car, so Alex goes and helps him. Meanwhile, the train is fast approaching. Carter eventually is pulled out by Alex, and he was like mere seconds to death. His car gets wrecked, but he's not dead yet. Billy is very freaked out and keeps telling Carter that he's not going to go anywhere near him because he's next and he doesn't want him taking him down with him. As he is saying all of this, a piece of metal under the train tracks gets caught and goes flying through the air. And essentially Billy's head is cut off, like his head, and then it like rolls on the ground. So now only Alex, Claire, and Carter are alive out of the survivors. Basically then Alex is like, if he has a vision and then he intervenes, then he cheats death. Because Carter was supposed to die next, not Billy, but then Carter cheated death again, so then it skipped to Billy. You see what's going on here? Alex tries to safety-proof the cabin he's staying in, and then he waits. He has a few near misses. Meanwhile, the FBI are watching Claire like a hawk. They're stalking outside of her window. Basically, while Alex is in this cabin, he has an epiphany. And that epiphany is that he moved seats, meaning the seat he was originally on isn't next in the line of people to die. Claire is next in the line of people to die. Just at that moment, a power line explodes outside of her window. The FBI get to the cabin Alex is in, but he already makes a run for it. He hops in this canoe thing and paddles away to evade police. Claire's German Shepherd is trying to get the electrical wires, so she runs outside to try to get him to get away from it. As she does so, she almost dies herself. Alex almost dies trying to get to her. Things are very intense, like a tree falls down on Alex. He's like drowning in mud before finally, after a very long time, he's able to pull himself out. Claire almost dies herself. Everything is just very, very intense. Everything in her house starts sparking. She gets inside of her car, but the garage door won't open, so she just drives through it. Alex then arrives and then tells Claire not to move, not to touch anything, and to just stay in the car despite the wires all around her sparking. Alex then begins fighting the wire, that thing right there. The car that Claire is now staying in catches on fire. Alex then tries to sacrifice himself so that then the death will skip over Claire and go to him instead. Just at that instance, the FBI show up. He grabs the live wire, Claire opens the car door, the entire car explodes. Claire is okay. Alex, on the other hand, well, we don't know. Alex is okay, and then it is 6 months later. All 3 are still alive and it appears they have cheated death. They successfully went into a plane and have landed in Paris. They're sitting outside together having a debrief, and Alex is like, I feel like something is missing. They do a toast to everyone that has died and everyone who can't be there. They basically come to the consensus that if somebody intervenes, then death will skip you. But in Alex's case, no one intervened, and death still appeared to skip him. Then a bus guard then starts singing that John Denver song. You know, the song that always plays when someone is about to die. Alex starts panicking. A whole bunch of stuff starts happening around him. So he tells them he's going back to the hotel. As Alex is walking, a bus is going erratically. It almost hits him. It misses him. But it gets into a crash and then a sign comes flying down. Carter pushes Alex out of the way, so then he skips death because someone intervened on his behalf, meaning that everything loops back around again. Meaning that if Alex's thing is correct, then it's Carter's turn again. The sign then hits him and it's presumed that he dies. So that is the end of the movie. The main message of this movie is that you can't cheat death and there's fate, and you can't cheat fate either. What do you think of that? Let me know, and thank you for joining me for day 6 of the 31 Days of Halloween. I still can't believe that my snow globe shattered. I'm so upset about that. But I decided that I'm going to go to the shops tomorrow and see if I can just buy another one. I don't know what's going on lately, but literally this hand, I sliced a razor on my finger and then I stabbed a little something on my hand. Then I smashed my snow globe. And this is just all a case of bad luck, and I am not a unlucky person. I would say that in my life I am actually quite lucky, but everything has changed and I don't know why. Maybe someone has put a curse on me. Maybe someone has hexed me. I don't know, but I'm scared. Okay, I'm going. Good night.